Hello, everyone. Benjamin Lindsay here, managing editor at Backstage. Thanks for tuning in this evening. We are in for a treat with Miss Leslie Bibb joining us for a Backstage Live. You will, of course, know Backstage Live as part of our ongoing Slate programming. This is our on-camera interview series, or video series rather, where you can watch from anywhere to learn all you need to know about the craft and business of acting from casting directors, industry insiders, and of course actors like Leslie. Through these Instagram takeovers and Q&As, live stream seminars, and interactive group classes. So for more on the slate and to see what's coming up next week and the weeks following, head over to backstage.com/magazine, where we keep a regular update of our slate calendar. Again, Leslie Bibb is joining us today. She's the star of Netflix's new superhero series, Jupiter's Legacy. She stars as Grace Sampson, a.k.a. Lady Liberty, from the 2013 comic book series. She is an aging superhero whose children are tasked with living up to her super heroic legacy. It's a great series, and very excited to speak with her all about it. So I will see if she's in our audience right now, and we can get going. Leslie, I see you here. One moment, and I'll send you the request. There we
Hi,
go. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to connect here. My name is Ben. I'm a managing editor here at Backstage. So it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Congrats on premiere day for Jupiter's Legacy.
Oh, wait,
Um,
phone's in?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, all good, all good. But congrats on your premiere day here. I know that it was a little over 2 years ago that you were first attached to this project. So what's it feel like now that it's finally out in the world?
Uh, it's so strange because you do something and it's kind of this is so in the rear view. It's been such a long time and it feels so distant.
Mhm.
So it's very strange to sort of talk about again. I sort of do that. Like once I do a job when they yell, "That's a wrap," I sort of go in the back the
Yeah.
next one. I'm in Australia right now doing the next one, and so I'm sort of in it with that one. But it's fun to revisit everything and to see all the old pictures and look at all of it again.
Yeah.
I'd never done a job like that before, so with stunts and it was it's full on.
Yeah, I mean the scale of the project here. I mean, I imagine that you were doing the stunts. There was a lot of green screens. The production value is pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
really great.
what,
It's
what,
really but yeah, I mean, our stunt team, those stunt men and women are so, beyond being so fit. I just love that, like, they fall down and they get back up and they continue to keep going and going and going and going. So, and they make us look really cool. So I'm grateful. My Andrea, my stunt woman, was just awesome. She's such a badass, just like so incredible. So, we couldn't have made that show without those stunt people doing all of that. They're just tireless.
yeah, for sure. And speaking of badasses, Lady Liberty, this character, really awesome. What excited you most about playing her and bringing her to the screen?
What I was going to say to you is I was like, as an actor, I'd never done anything with that much green screen before.
Oh,
That's, as an actor, I don't think you're used to being in a scene with another person. And you're in the scene with the other person, but they're hooked to wires and there's all of this technical stuff
mm-hmm.
in play. And the fact that it's not really there when it's not actually that background will be there. There's going to be a hill behind you. Right now, you're just in a sea of green screen. I remember Sam was visiting me in Toronto, and John Hamm was there for the film festival. And I did a movie with John, and John and Sam came by set. And I remember I walked them onto the hilltop. This is a big fight scene we have at the end of the first episode, I think. And John looked around and he was like, "Wow, this is a lot of green screen. He's like, they're spending a lot of money on this, Bibb. And I never thought about green screen sort of being the detection of how much budget you had behind. Really funny when he said it. I loved this character because I like the aspect of seeing somebody sort of in the beginning of their life. And I keep saying that, in the beginning and at the end. Mm-hmm. And I loved her. I really sort of, playing a superhero, I mean, what does that mean? Like, it just felt like I didn't know how to, as an actor, to be like, that's their job. You know, that's like, you're seeing a couple, you know, having possible problems with communication in their relationship. And I was like, I remember saying to Josh one day, I said, oh my God, you know what they're like? They're like doctors who are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Mm-hmm. Like, they are never off duty, and they work together. They live, like, there's no sort of separation there, and what that must do to a relationship. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, like, when I had that, I was like, oh, then it felt like I wanted, you know, you have to make a character real. You can't, like, if you're playing somebody who's the strongest person in the world, like, where is her weakness? Where are her Achilles heels? Where are her broken fragments in her personality? And so I sort of hooked into who she was when she was 20, mm-hmm. A journalist, a truth seeker. She was acerbic. She was sort of, I think she was sort of badass. She was a woman who was working in a man's world. She was mm-hmm. picking over, you know, family and relationships, which was sort of not normal in the 19. And I thought, like, oh, that was the hook to her. You know, she was this woman. She was sort of doing stuff that women weren't doing at that time. So, and then at the end of her life, you know, not the end, but like when we catch her, and, you know, and she's 110 years old and she's seen everything and she's had this like very lived life. I thought, like, I wonder if she looked back and thought, where was the fearless girl I used to be? Like I feel like and that was sort of the hook to her, of she'd lost her voice. And that felt like, cause, you know, just playing it had to make her job feel, so I don't know. I couldn't hook into it. It wasn't sort of bringing me to life to play a superhero. I mean, cause then all you're doing is like walking around like, I'm a badass, and like, boring. It's
right.
Like, you know, it's like, you know, a doctor who's like, I never let anybody die on my watch. You know, it's like, so.
And I had read, in terms of her later years and having the perspective of looking back on her life and maybe questioning where that fearless girl went, I'd read in a previous interview that you did for this show that you actually took inspiration from your late mother in your portrayal of her in older age.
I didn't realize that I had. I was talking about it in an interview. When my mom passed away, I produced this movie, oddly. I produced it and acted in it, and it's called The Lost Husband. Mm-hmm. I helped rewrite it with our writer-director. And a week before we started filming, and I got Josh Duhamel to come play our male lead on it. So it was like my year of Josh Duhamel. I had went from like that into Jupiter's, which was very funny. But the week before we were to start filming, my mother died suddenly, which was also something crazy with actors, of like, you kind of can't get sick. And if people die in your life, the show must go on. So I remember going home. We had my mom's funeral, and then Sunday I flew back to New York, and I got off the plane, and Sam went to our house, and I went to Brooklyn and coached with my acting coach, Terry Knickerbocker, for 2.5 hours to finish out the script, because I was leaving on Monday to go to Austin to start filming. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think I really processed it. And the movie was about relationships with mothers. So I was sort of cracked, I think, during mm-hmm. that movie, open, and was just sort of like putting one foot in front of the other and hoping that it would, like, I'd done my work on the script, and like what I was feeling internally would, it would all work. And I hope it did. And then we went right into this. So I don't think I was really putting one in together about Grace, but when I was just talking about it, I think there was a part of me that, because when my mom died, she was scared and she was lonely, and I remember she was just fearful. I just remember the fear, and I remember thinking, God, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. And how, I don't want to become like my mother. I don't want to, and just this thing, and we all become our parents, and we all become, like, you can't sort of escape that. You can make changes in behavior and stuff, but I realized that Grace Kennedy, Lady Liberty, was in a way probably seeking the fearless girl she used to be, because my mother, when she was young, was like vibrant and like just raised 4 girls on her own and was working in a man's world and was no nonsense, and she was very similar. So I don't even think that it's the beauty of acting, right? Like, we have natural scabs that you don't even have to pick off sometimes. They're there. And if you walk into a scene and you really are listening and in the moments, things will come to the surface. If you're open, relaxed, and it's like, those are the things about acting I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, all of that stuff, like, you do all your homework, you have all these ideas, you have all this like arsenal of ideas in your bag that you've brought to set of like, well, if this happens, it could be this, or you tried to craft moments, and then you have to let it all go and get in the scene and just listen.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, they were like, what would be your superhero? If you like your thing, if you could do anything, like fly or, whatever, your superpower. That I think my superpower would be to be like the best listener in the world.
Not bad.
Badass actor. Like, you could get on a scene, like everything, the camera falls away and you just are with, your scene partner and are like listening and answering honestly in the moment. It was just like, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing the story of your mother, and my condolences, of course, for your loss. But what a beautiful way to be able to pay homage a little bit through this character.
Yeah, it was, and funny that, like, I didn't even put it all, like, I never put 1 and 1 together to equal 2. It's just like, it just sort of afterwards, which I thought was kind of awesome, because I was sort of very protective about it and didn't really talk about it. It's sort of like rocks you to your core. So it's funny that she snuck in.
Yeah.
My job. So
Yeah.
It's a good character to have, like, an homage to your mom, and it's like Lady Liberty.
Yeah, fair enough. And when it comes to building other characters, you mentioned acting coach Terry Knickerbocker. I'd love to hear a bit more about what your process kind of looks like. How do you, what are kind of the steps to finding your way in, whether it be someone like Lady Liberty or looking to other projects? Yeah.
So I studied in New York. I went to William Esper Acting Studios. I studied with a woman, Maggie Flanagan, who's since retired. I think I took one of her last master classes a few years in New York. She did like a 6-week or 8-week intensive. It's so fun to go back to class and do scene work. I was like, and I was like, Maggie, it's like, I was like, you get so scared again. Like, you don't want to disappoint them. But my friend Piper Parabo was in it. And we were just like, I loved, like, we'd go to a bar afterwards and we would talk about like the scenes and what we were doing. It's just like, I love actors. I love what we get to do. I love the weird vocabulary we have with each other that nobody understands. Like, I love it. So Maggie's who I studied with. And then Terry is my partner, Sam Rockwell. He's a beautiful actor. Terry worked on everything. And when we started dating, I needed a new acting coach. And so I started working with Terry, and I work with him on everything. I never break a script without breaking it with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I said, how do we start? He reads it, I read it. And then it's like, we just read the scene and then we start carving out moments. I mean, I was looking at my script. I'm doing this show right now in Australia with Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone and all these like wonderful comedy actors. And I will look at my script sometimes. It looks like a serial killer's like notebook. There's writing everywhere. And, you know, I just look at it and I have contradictory notes.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realize is that it's an idea for a take. Like, maybe we try it like this, or maybe we try it like that. I just come from the school of thought that the more ideas you have, and again, I think of it like a toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Things in your toolkit, and you don't know what the scene will require. But our job as an actor is to come with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's you are required to do that. I mean, that's what Maggie taught me. Because what if the director goes, oh, that's great, but you know what, why don't we try it like this? If he gives you an idea, you have to have something that you can create an as if for. So, you know, because I'm Meisner trained, it's the period, and he's a, you know, Meisner teacher. It's all sort of as ifs, planting, going like, well, maybe this is a good moment to plant. Maybe we try like this. So we just start, it feels, it's super creative. It's like, just feels like you know, like being in acting class again. You're like, well, this moment could be this, or this moment could be this. It's about also putting subtext to the words.
Mm-hmm.
I then memorize my lines by rote. Sam does like rehearsal app, but I don't love it that much. I do my voice memo. I just sound like you know, do the other person's line like normal, but then my lines, I'm like, this is not what you want. And then I listen to it obsessively, and then it's in my head. And then that allows me sort of a diving board to jump off of, so that I've never memorized a line with an intention on it. Mm-hmm. So I me feel more facile and more able to, if Melissa or Josh or Tony Stark gives me a different read, I can honestly respond. Like, the words are like in there already. Like, I don't even know where they are, but they're in there. And then I just look at my script all the time. So like Terry and I break it. We have like shit ton of ideas everywhere. He gives me movie inspirations. Oh, this moment's like, I had to yell at people in this show that I'm doing now. And it's such a random, like, if I said it to a director, and never tell people what you're doing, because then they'll get scared. But like, I watched the scene from Full Metal Jacket when the like guy comes in and he just screams at all those, that opening scene, that great monologue that actor has. I looked at that, and I listened to, we had other ideas that I won't say, but other, like, maybe actors freaking out that have been put on tape. And like, I just listened to people having a full-blown like freak out, but it was also kind of funny, like, because they were sort of rooted in like this, I think how they were just so self-righteous. And I thought funny, like, so I sort of looked at those things for inspiration, and then there's another moment I could have a different inspiration for, so I'll sort of look at that, possibly steal stuff, and then go into the scene and then sort of forget it all. But then after I do that, I just sort of look at every morning. Mornings are like my best time when I'm looking at scripts, like with my tea or coffee, and I just look at it and I read the scene over and over. I'm listening to my lines in my head. And then it's like your brain, I just find like your creative brain just starts to, like, things just break through and you're like, oh, there's something, or there's something. And then I just write down another idea, and sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. But it's there, because again, I think you're your responsibility as an actor is to always come prepared and with ideas.
Yeah, yeah. That's the gift of having that backlog of preparation, that you have the freedom to play once
Yeah,
you
but
play.
we have that luxury though.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you get, I mean, I got a movie in November, and it was a little indie, and um, I think they called me on a Monday because the other actress fell out because she had another job, and it was like COVID, and they had a COVID scare and whatever.
Mm.
Like filming on like the Friday or the Saturday or something. Like I like flew, so I didn't have any time to work really with Terry on it, and which was scary, and because I sort of hold that process so dear to me. But I also think back to this cold reading class that I did when I was back in acting school that Maggie taught, where she gave you like sides and said, go outside and you have like 10 minutes to read it.
Mm.
And then come back in and you got to make choices because you got to separate yourself. Like, back in the days when you would audition and be in the room, and then they'd come out and be like, oh, I don't want you to read for Jan. I want you to read for Ella, and you're like, and I remember that happened on Popular. Carly Pope and I were reading for Brooke.
Mm.
And she went in, I went in, we came out, and then they came out to her. And I remember Tamara Mello was reading for Sam, who was also in the show. And maybe like two other actresses were reading for the character of Sam. And I remember they came out of the room when we left for Brooke, and they came up to Carly and they handed her the sides for Sam. And they said, we want you to read this part. And Carly, and I didn't know her by then. She, and it's that thing when you were testing for a part. And I remember I felt good. I was like, oh, either I did a really good job or I did a really bad job, and I'm out of contention. But I thought it felt like a good audition. So I was like, I think I did a good job. But I then felt like, oh my God, that's so much pressure. There's a room full of executives who are standing there like this. And it's not a warm room. It's not like, what are you going to do? Show me what you got, And you're like, I can dance.
Dancing. Yeah.
Carly read it and then went in and then got the part. And then Tamara ended up getting another part in the show. So it was like a very funny audition process for that. So that cold reading class, I remember it being so impactful on me when I was studying.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I think I wish they taught more of, because I use it the most, because I did it on that job. I was like, put your lines on your voice memo, listen to it like a crazy person all the time, start making decisions. This is what you got, lady. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then just started. And so that it makes me feel safer, actually, because it was like, oh, I'm, I think also like the luxury of working with Terry and getting to coach with him, it's like constantly going back to class. Because I get nervous because he's like, well, what do you think this scene is about? And I'm like, I don't know. I think about this. And he's like, really? Because I thought it was more about this. And I was like, and he always comes up with like a better idea than I have. And I was like, you're right.
Well, that's why you go to class, right?
So it was like constantly honing something, which I like to do. It's like, I think we always need to do that. We always need to be talking to people about acting. Like, I just think like if we never have it figured out. We can always, like always like constantly get together with your friends and read a play. Watch lots of movies. And when movies go back, Fran was right. Go sit in theaters and watch a movie. I'm shooting in Australia, and the movie theaters are open. And Sam just got out of quarantine. And our first day out together, we went to a movie.
Oh, that's great.
I just forgot the safety of a dark room, a big screen, some popcorn, and watching people work. It's really great. Sam, I think, has seen 4 movies. He's been here 7 days and he's seen 4 movies.
That'll be me. Once they're back open, I'll see 4 movies. That sounds great.
It's so about Backstage is I remember Backstage when I moved to New York,
Yeah.
and I studying, and it was, you know, you'd get your Backstage and you would read it and you would look at stuff in it, and it's really cool. I love that it's still around.
Yeah.
It was like
Still doing. Yeah. Well, I know that you have another interview coming up right after this, so I don't want to take too much of your time. Feel like we could talk forever, though. I love talking about acting and hearing about how you do. Yeah.
Are you an actor?
I am not, no, but just passionate about it and work tangentially with the Backstage. Yeah. But this was lovely. I'm glad to see that you're doing well. Stay well in Australia. Congratulations on the new series.
Oh, I don't at all. I know nothing about acting. I always like show up on set and I'm like, well, I don't have this figured out.
I mean, it's always the imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna find out I know nothing.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the last job. Yeah, I was on set the other day and like sirens went by and I was like, well, that's the acting police. They've come to arrest me in Australia. Like,
you've been found out. Yeah.
I've made some weird choice. I did something and I was like, well, that one, let's hope that never is seen again. But I have to be, we have to risk that. And if you ever have a director who makes you feel shitty about that,
Mm-hmm.
like I've had a director be like, don't do that again.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be like, F you. Like, don't just say to me, interesting. Like, I remember Adam McKay said something on Talladega, because I'd never been with those guys. Were comedy guys and they're so fast. And I wasn't from like the Groundlings or any of that stuff, but Esper is, listening and responding. And it's essentially the tenet of acting, right? You just stay in the moment, say yes, and just be there. And I remember Adam said, don't ever sit on an impulse. Mm. And I said, what if he goes, it doesn't matter. It could be the wrong impulse, but maybe it will lead to something great we didn't think about. And he said, even if it's wrong, even if like we waste it, like we go and it's like something, but maybe Will respond in a way and then you'll respond in a way. And then there will be a nugget that for the next take will be like, well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful I worked with him, with Adam McKay and with Will Ferrell that early, like, in my career that, because I think it gave me a fearlessness, especially with comedy, mm-hmm. to go in and make a bold choice and just sort of keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. Because you have to be fearless. You can't don't sit on impulses. Yeah. And if someone guilt you or say that was dumb, that's more about them being scared of it than anything.
Yeah. You want to be in an environment that fosters a creative space and that kind of creative freedom. Absolutely. Well, this was great. We'll have to stay in touch, Leslie. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. And I love Backstage and I love actors.
All right. We love you. You stay well. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.